good evening, good morning, and I say hi to all of you what's watching my video right now. Today we're gonna have a review on the Morehouse. Most games has hand you a sword and point you in the direction of the battalion of foes, feel empowering and heroic. After a few rounds of Morehouse, the prospect of healing once more into the breach seemed one terrifying than anything else. Of all the multiplayer melee games I've played over 3 years, this has decided the highest skill cap and the least patience for those who haven't taken the time to learn its complex, twitch-based combat. The upside to that is feel you do go on a hot streak, you feel like way more of a badass than any those forgiving games can you feel. The basic premise is pretty simple. In the default frontline mode, you take up arms as rush warrior from one of your 9 classes and rush into the fray into 32v objectives-based scrims on attractive, realistic structured medieval battlefields. Then you probably die pretty quickly to someone a bit quicker or more experienced than you are respawn, hopefully you having learned something to take forward into your next brawl. Each clash of swords can look deceptively simple, but it's actually high complex in a huge variety of attacks, parries, and counters available to you. A well-scripted and straightforward tutorial will run you through their fundamentals, but it's another matter entirely to execute the correct moves at the right time. It takes many hours just to start feeling competent, but the satisfaction of growing confidence as your execution improves something no numerical progression system can really appreciate. Everything you do in a melee is highly dependent on a split-second timing, so sloppy or indecisive swordplay will be punished heavily by experienced players. You can hold down block while brushing a sword, for instance. Left click executes a time parry that only works for about a second, so you need to sync it up with your opponent's movements. And almost any defensive measure you deploy has an equivalent concept that will slap it aside with ease, so most duels will favor whichever player can read their opponent and read quickly and aggressively. It's a bit bummer that there is not a lot you can do when you're just learning the ropes and want to take a more relaxed support role. There is an engineer class who can shake things up by deploying siege weapons and the like, but I often my contribution in the area were reliably small and easy undone by the other classes. In other multiplayer games like Battlefield 5 and Overwatch, I can focus on reviving teammates or locking down a point if want a little bit of a break from high intensity combat, and Morehouse doesn't support that playstyle especially well. Even with early success, I worry that it still shrink the number of players who can really get into Morehouse. If I want to invite my younger cousin who is up to more lower level in the melee action games into a match, there will be completely less for him to do that might make him feel unsuccessful or useful. Even the most handed swordsman has to admit that giving less Twitch skilled players something meaningful to do only help fill the service and give us more fresh meat to beat up on it. That doesn't work if they all get frustrated and leave. Archery too I found a bit disappointing. Morehouse has gone the road of making arrows very powerful but very difficult to land when. Drawing back the bow requires about a second in which your crosshair moves in a semicircle, making it almost impossible to aim. Then gives you a couple seconds of a steady hand before you start to wobble and lose your aim. The projectiles themselves are fairly slow and experience significant drop-off after leaving the string. This comes across as very realistic but not especially fun, and it makes becoming an even somewhat effective archer even more difficult than getting the hand of the melee. The root of the problem is trying to simulate realistic archery in what are ultimately pretty unrealistic conditions. You didn't see a lot of medieval battles with a couple dozen guys in armor darting around in loose formation, changing direction on a dime, jumping over logs and intermingling with each other troops. It's a chaos, usually leaving archers vulnerable on the sidelines to skirmish and try to take 1000-to-1 shots of opportunity at individual target. In reality, these types of troops will be only have deployed and massive to fire at station formation. The one place it doesn't work kind of decently in maps with the walls or pedestal where the archers can take shots and advertising enemies from a portion of safety. but on a bigger open battlefields. What's the point? Morhau also features two other gameplay modes, at this point almost unambitious Battle Royale versus pre-AI Horde mode. I didn't like either of them as much as default frontline, but Horde can be fun way to learn the ropes with the help of some more skilled players without having to worry too much about being screwed by those same veterans. In Horde you start with no equipment and have no kill values of AI attackers to get money to buy better stuff. The baddies will keep pace with you, however they gain better equipment and coming in great numbers from one wave to the next. Their combat ability is significantly inferior to a skilled player, but they have a tendency to mob up any solo fighters they can single out. It becomes important to stick together and use formation and natural choke points to survive. Although it's not as much as test of the things Mortal does the best at the PvP modes, but it's still a bit of fun. It is also not the best fit for the new players. If you haven't really mastered the melee system yet, you're likely to die quickly and then sit around for several minutes while the match finish or require and wait for a new round, which may take a while itself depending on how the servers are behaving. Either way, you don't get thrown back into the action as quickly like in a frontline, which means fewer chances to learn from your mistakes and test out the new tactics. I therefore recommend avoiding it until you're ready, finishing on the top of having frontline matches. If you got the patience to take full advantage of its melee combat, Morhau can be a treat, especially in the frontline mode. Slashing and stabbing across its beautiful, well-designed maps was really entertaining, and I got. Thanks for watching. Please push the subscribe button and like too. Thank you. Bye.